All right, and we're live. There we go. So let's talk about our lab today. We're going to go downstairs. We're going to learn about the microscope. And on your lab, it literally walks you through if you just read the questions, okay, and follow along with this. This is probably one of the most important things we learn in lab all year, only because almost every time we go down to lab, we're focusing on the microscope. So learn how to do this now, and it will be so much easier. If you depend entirely on your partner for all of this, when your partner doesn't happen to be here, you're going to be in trouble because you're going to be standing there waiting for me to help you while everybody else has already get their stuff figured out and is working on the lab. So like step one is just get it in focus so we can see what we're looking for, and then we do the lab. Today is all about just practice, basically learning this skill really well, as best as we can in a one class segment, okay? So your lab's going to walk you through. As you read, it's going to describe the parts of the microscope. You can check them off as you go if you like. There's little check boxes. Okay, I don't care if you do that or not. But let's take a look at some of the parts and kind of how we hold our microscope, because that's what a lot of this lab is about. Okay? And there's some questions here as well as you go about like direction, things move as you turn the wheels, things like that. Try to answer those. And we'll talk here a little bit about magnification. Okay? So, see on the back here is more about locating things. When we're totally done kind of going through overview of the microscope, you're going to be looking at some slides. And you'll have some choices. You can choose any four things that we have down there. And there's more than 4 slides out. Okay? All the slides are prepared for you. Later in class, we'll learn how to actually make a slide. So we're just going to use the prepared ones today. Okay? So let's go over some of the parts. I've got them listed up here on the board for you. First off, when you carry your microscope, you hold it by the base and you hold it by the arm here, okay? Make sure it's not plugged in, you don't walk off and it yanks it out of your hand, okay? So hold it like this just to be careful with the thing, okay? Now, some other parts of the microscope. A very important part is the button down here that turns the light on. There's a lamp down below, and this button right here will turn that on and off. It's not in the same spot on all the microscopes. All of our scopes are not the same. Some of them it's going to be tucked in behind here. Some it might be like up in here. It's in different locations depending on which microscope you have. Okay, and that's totally fine. Just you have to kind of figure it out where it's at. If you flip it and nothing happens, the bulb might be burned out. So try the other direction. Check it's plugged in. Okay. Along with the plugs, don't yank these out of the wall because sometimes you yank the plug off and then we have sparks. And we don't want that. Like that's not too good. So if we're taking them out for the day, just kind of unplug them. I think we're going to leave them out today because every other class is going to use them as well. So going along with this, we've got our arm. The wheels that adjust the focus are down here. Now on some of our scopes, there's 2. And in others, there's one that's inset in the other one. The one that spins like really easy is the fine adjust on those. This is the fine adjust, the little knob. The coarse adjust is the big knob, this big thing here, okay? And you can see on this one, it's actually raising and lowering the stage, which is this flat part here. On other scopes, it might move the other piece, but it's going to change the distance between here somehow, okay? And the coarse knob really moves it a lot. So we also have the eyepiece, which is up top here, okay? It spins, it won't come off, but it spins because there's a little arrow in there that you can actually turn to point to something. So if you're like, hey, Hambling, I need some help with this, like, what is this thing I'm looking at? You could actually turn this to point your arrow at it, and then we know what we're talking about, okay? Some of them actually have a little scale in there to help you measure, but we won't do much measurement with these, okay? We have the revolving nose piece, which is this piece right here, okay? It's got the objective lenses on it. I should mention this as well. Doesn't matter if your scope is facing this way, or if you're on the other side of it, you can turn this around to look at through it both ways. There's not a right way. Whichever way you want to look through it is totally fine, but this part just turns, okay? So the revolving nose piece has the lenses on it, the objective lenses, and these change the magnification of your scope. Now it's really important that when you turn these things, they actually click in place. You'll feel it. If you're halfway in between, I guarantee you'll call me over and be like, I don't see anything, there's nothing there, it's just black. That's because like you're virtually looking at nothing, right? There's nothing that's letting the light pass through, okay? So we'll come back to that here in a second when we go over focusing, but these rotate, okay? Down here on the stage, you'll notice you have some stage clips, okay? Sometimes it's easiest just to push those out of the way. Other times it's nice to clip your slide into that. What you don't want to do, here's the slide. I see this all the time. You don't want to set your slide on top of the stage clips. That's all sort of wonky, okay? Either get them out of the way or put them underneath, or put your slide underneath the clips, okay? Holds it down. As you notice, there's a little opening here, a little glass opening right here, okay? It's called the stage opening, and that's what light goes through. And there's an important knob on this thing that most folks don't know about, even if they've learned about a microscope before. It's called the diaphragm, okay? And it's this little wheel right here on this one. Others have a little lever underneath. And by turning that, you change the amount of light that goes through. So some things that we look at look really good under full light, like as much light going through as possible. Other things, the dimmer you make it, the better it will look. The lamp, when you turn it on, is just like full brightness. This thing actually, if you could see in there, it reduces the size hole that the light gets to go through the stage. So it actually makes a huge difference when you fiddle with this. So once you get something in focus, I always go back and kind of give this a kind of a forwards and backwards, like what looks the best, okay? All right, did I miss any parts here? If we got all the parts. Good, base, eyepiece. Okay, let's talk magnification really quick, because in your lab it's gonna ask you to calculate the magnification. There's two lenses on this thing, and we've got to figure out the magnification of both to get this right. The first one is the eyepiece. It's this one here. And it actually is printed on the eyepiece. There's a bunch of numbers on here. Some have to do with scale, like how big the field of view is. We can see that at home. This one has 10x on it. It will be the number that has an x. So 10x just means 10 times. So if I yank this thing off of here and look at anything, I'm magnifying it 10 times its normal size. That's quite a bit. But the lenses down here multiply that even further. Now, how do you know which is which? On this scope, it's pretty easy, because the littlest one, the wee little red one here, is the lowest power, and the biggest, longest one on here, which happens to be the blue one, is the highest power. And then you've got an in-between, which is this yellow one here. Other scopes might only have 2, okay, rather than 3. Others might have 4. It just depends on the scope, okay? And the powers might be different. So if I read these, there's a whole slew of numbers on them. Let's see if I can show the folks at home here. So there's a whole slew of numbers on these. You want the one on this that comes after the DIN. It's the big number. It's never going to be the decimal number on our scopes. It'll always be the whole number. And this one says 10. So if I've got this yellow one clicked in here, and it says 10, and this says 10, what's my total magnification? Anybody? Good job. You multiply them together. What if I'm on number 40 down here? I'm on 40 times down here on this blue one. What is it?
400.
400. It's so easy, add a 0. This one is almost always going to be 10. I think all of our scopes is 10. So it's going to be 10 times whatever this is. But they can be different, so you might check. Okay, so we're figuring out magnification. It's this times whatever this is. So this can look at 400 times normal size. That's pretty tiny. Could you see a virus with that? Nope, not even close, right? You can just barely see a bacteria. I mean, just barely. They're like a speck. Most of them are anyway. So the lowest power is a 4, so that's only 40 times. We have other scopes down there that are even higher power. They have just two objective lenses. Okay, they're a little bit older, they're gray, and they kind of look a little more beat up, but they're just as good. They go to a higher power. So keep that in mind when you guys are focusing these. Different, depending on what scope you have, you'll have different powers. Okay, so let's go over. That's how to calculate the power that you're viewing at. Let's do a quick focusing thing. Okay, the first thing I like to do is move those stage clips out of the way. Okay, then what I'll do is I'll grab this coarse adjustment wheel, not the fine one. You'll screw stuff up if you grab a hold of that one. And you want to get the stage far away from the lens. Okay, so you've got room in there, right? Then we're going to put our slide on. I'm going to try and hold all this while I do it. This slide is some cup fungus, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but there is just a tiny little blue smudge on that. Okay, here's the trick. When you put this on here, of course you could put it either direction, but you want to put it with the words up, because there's a thick cover slip on top of this. If you put it the other way, it will mess up like how it's sitting on there. So put it with the words up. It doesn't matter how the words are facing. Put it with the words up. And then what you want to do, it's easier with the light on, you want to make sure that little blue smudge that's on there is absolutely dead center of that little glass piece in the middle, okay, where the light comes through. If it's not, it's going to be really hard to focus this thing. So we get that guy dead center, and then we can put the clips on. You don't have to. You can put one on, you can put two on. Depends if you want or not, but don't lay the slide on top of the clips because you're not going to see anything, okay? So once we do that, we want to be on the lowest power. This is a question on the quiz today. You always start with the lowest power, right? That's the small lens. Don't start with the high power. First of all, it's harder to see what you're looking for, but secondly, with the high power, you could break the slide because it can go down that far. The lowest power lens shouldn't be able to hit the actual slide when I go down. And so now my next step is I'm going to get this guy, I'm going to turn the course adjust until the slide is as close to the lens as I can get it. I get it all the way up as close to the lens. That only works with the low power. If I'm on high power, I would have plowed my lens right through my slide and broke it. Would have cracked it in half, which we don't want to do. Right? Now that I've got that set up, I've got my light turned on, I've got my scope plugged in, I'm going to start looking through it. And as I look through it, I'm going to use this course adjustment knob to slowly back the stage away. See it going down? And as you do that, you're going to hit a spot where it's like, ooh, it's almost there, and you'll kind of give it a little wiggle, and you'll get it really close. It'll look really good, okay? Once you've got that, you might have to grab the slide. Don't be afraid to grab this thing with your thumbs, with both thumbs, and slide it around, move it some. And you're going to be surprised because you're going to move it one way with your fingers, and you're going to see it go the other way with your eye, okay? So move it around, get it centered, really good. Grab that fine adjustment knob, and if it takes more than a little wiggle, something's wrong. Okay, it should just be a little wiggle to get it perfect for your eye. Then, the way these scopes are designed, and this is beautiful, if you have it in focus on low power, all you have to do is turn the nose piece to the next highest power. Don't jump up to the highest power. In this one, I'm getting the middle power. That was the 10 times, so I'm at 100 power now. Turn it to this one, and without doing anything, it should be almost perfectly in focus. Once you've turned it to this power, the only knob you should really have to touch is not the coarse adjust, but the fine adjustment. And remember, some of those are kind of on the inside of the big knob sometimes. So don't ever grab that fine adjustment knob and start cranking it, because you'll put your scope so out of focus, you're gonna need me to come back and probably recalibrate the thing for you, okay? So that little fine adjustment knob should just take a little wiggly wiggle, and it should be perfect. Now what you're gonna notice, as you go to the next higher power, we're zooming in, right? What happens to your field of view when you zoom in? Get bigger or smaller? Get smaller. So you went from this big picture like this down to this. If your slide wasn't dead center of your field of view, suddenly what you were looking at is over here somewhere. It's off of your scope. So before you go to the next power, double check, make sure that thing is dead center on what you want to look at. Then when you turn, it'll be sitting right there perfectly for you. It'll be beautiful. A little wiggle of the fine adjust, you're good to go. Make sure it's centered again, turn to the next power. If it is in focus, turning to the next power should not ram this lens into the slide. Okay, there should never hit it. Give it a little wiggle of the fine adjust, and now we're on high power. Some things will look better on high, medium, or low. It just depends on what you're looking at. Some of the things we're looking at today are humongous, and looking at them on high power, you might see the eye spot really good, but you're not going to see the whole critter, okay? It just depends. You can draw it on whatever power you want, as long as you can see something, and we're going to make sure that those pictures look right, okay? So, I think we have covered everything here. Let me double check. So on the back of this, if you're doing this from home, as you go through, there's little questions to fill out here, okay? And which directions the objective moves as you turn the course wheel towards you, right? Some simple things, you're gonna figure those things out as you go, okay? Figure out the total magnification of high and low power, just multiplying there. You can kind of do that from what I said already. We've got some things to look at. Any three of these, totally fine. We've got lily stem, planaria, blood smear, a cup fungus, okay? Any of those, if you're at home and you want to look up a picture of any of these, you can do that too, see what they look like, because there might be a picture of one of these on the quiz. I think so you're just going to draw these back here. Okay, so like maybe I'll draw the onion root, maybe I'll draw the cup fungus, might draw the human blood, might draw the planaria, okay, whatever. We'll just get 4 of those, and you can call me over to double check. There's also questions here on what the parts are and what they do. There'll be some quiz questions about that. And a couple of true and false here, right? Be careful here. Adding, right? Make sure you pay attention to the words that are italicized there. Oh, I didn't mention this one. I didn't mention this, but I should. Okay, so when you first go to lower this objective lens, the low power, when you're first getting ready to do this, and you know it's clicked in, just to start focusing your microscope, look to the side of it, don't be looking through it. That just prevents you from screwing up and having the wrong lens there and then smashing your slide. So look to the side, make sure when you're just going down, you're not going to hit anything. Okay? If you screw this up, if you get this to high power and it's not right and you can't find it and you call me over, the first thing I'm going to do is back it up to low power and start over. So if you have trouble on another power, back it up. Go back to low power, bring the stage up and start over. Okay? I mean, that's really pretty much I have to do that almost every time. If you can't find it and it's all mixed up, I'm starting back at the beginning. You don't just like go to high power and then luck out. I mean, sometimes you can, but not super often. Let me put that list back up there again. Make sure everybody at home can see it. There are the things that we're going to look at in lab today. You can pick any of those that you like. Pick out, there we go. At least 3 of those to look at today. Maybe we'll get through 4, we might have time. And then we're going to come back up and do the quiz.